Today we're talking about 10 great books paired with 10 great tobaccos. Hey friends, and welcome to There and Tobacco again. I'm Logan. Thanks so much for joining me today. I'm going to get right to it because I don't want this to end up being like an hour-long video. So I received in my 250 subscriber giveaway video, I received a comment that said maybe do some book and tobacco pairings. And being such a book lover that I am, and being a tobacco lover that I am, I thought that sounded like a lot of fun. So I've been kind of racking my brain this week trying to think of which books that I would like to I'd like to pair with certain tobaccos. So I've come up with a list of 10 books, great books that probably some of you have read, maybe you haven't, and 10 tobaccos. All of these books I have read, and all of these tobaccos I have smoked. Again, this is my opinion. It is completely subjective. I'd love to hear your comments below on maybe some tobaccos that you might have chosen instead for the books that I've selected. So without further ado, let's start. And these are, again, in no particular order, except for the first one. My favorite book of all time, The Lord of the Rings. The Lord of the Rings, published in 1954, is probably the most beloved fantasy, adventure novel that was ever written. And so many books have been taken a cue from it. It created an entire genre. I love the books. I love the movies. I love everything about it. On my library in the back, I've got several versions of Lord of the Rings, and several editions rather, and pretty much everything that Tolkien's ever written. So this book, Lord of the Rings, to me, there are probably a number of tobaccos as you go through the story, the rich story, the various languages and cultures. You can probably come up with so many different types of tobaccos to pair with this story. But there's only one, in my opinion, that belongs with this, and that is Capstan Blue. Capstan Blue was Tolkien's favorite. It was his go-to tobacco. We know that for a fact. He talked about it. There are pictures with Capstan Blue tins in his office. And we actually have a receipt, a picture of a receipt where he signed his name after he bought a tin of Capstan Blue. Capstan Blue would have been the smell in his office. It would have been the smell that permeated all of his notes. It would have been the smell that permeated all of his thoughts. So when he was writing about Old Toby, it was probably Capstan Blue he was thinking of. So that, to me, is the perfect pairing for Lord of the Rings. Second, Moby Dick by Herman Melville. This classic revenge tale of Ahab and the white whale and the whale ship Pequod. It's one of the great adventures ever told. I love this book. I read it first in high school, and I've read it several times since. And to me, there's only one that you can really, or one type of tobacco that can be paired with this. It's got to be a Navy cut or a Navy blend. At that time in history, you didn't find all of these different types of tobaccos that were loose cut. They were usually pressed into flakes or plugs or ropes or cones, which we don't see a lot of cone type tobaccos anymore. So I went with Samuel Gayworth Navy cut. Sam Gayworth, it's Virginia, it's Perique. It's a little bit of Latakia, which you don't often find in Navy blends, and then they top it with rum. It's a perfectly balanced flake, in my opinion, full of flavor and as rich as the story is itself. Another one I considered, another one would be Salty Dogs by Dan Tobacco. It's a traditional plug, Virginia Perique with rum in it also. But I haven't tried Salty Dogs. But I have tried Sam Gay with Navy Cut, and that is one of my absolute favorites. The third one that I'll mention is Call of the Wild by Jack London. This book stole my heart when I first read it. And I'll admit, it made me cry a little bit. It's the tale of Buck, a very well taken care of farm dog who gets kidnapped and taken to the Yukon to be a sled dog, and has to fight his way up to the top. And it is an amazing story. If you've never read it, I highly recommend it. For Call of the Wild, I chose Wild Man by Seattle Pipe Club. And I chose it because it's a tobacco that's created by Joe Lankford in the Pacific Northwest. It's dark and it's rich. It's pressed into these crumble cakes. To me, and I know it has the word wild in it, and that's part of the reason why I paired it with this, because it's such it's a winter type of blend, and it just screams the Northwest to me, and so that is why I selected that one. So number 4, maybe one of the great mystery novels of all time, Agatha Christie's Murder on the Orient Express. It is a Poirot, a detective novel about a murder that happens on this train, and it kind of comes to this miraculous reveal at the end of what Poirot is able to discover. And so I chose, it's the Orient Express, so I chose an Oriental forward blend. I chose Robert McConnell Original Oriental. It is a rich environment that Agatha Christie creates. So I used a rich tobacco as my pairing for this one. Original Oriental has Cavendish, it's got Oriental, it's got Latakia. It's an English blend that's very Oriental forward, and I thought a rich tobacco with a rich story. And so that's my selection for that one. Next up, Sherlock Holmes. Probably the only detective that could beat Hercule Poirot is Sherlock Holmes. And pipe smokers everywhere have read these books, the mysteries, the novels of Sherlock Holmes, because we identify with him. He was a pipe smoker. He loved pipe smoking, so do we. So the novels tell us that Sherlock Holmes smoked, his favorite was called Black Shag. Now, McClellan created one called Black Shag, but I've never smoked it, and I don't know what it was like. So I paired the Sherlock Holmes novel with Gayworth and Hogarth Dark Shag Unscented, Kindle Dark Shag Unscented. It is a dark shag, and it's a very traditional English shag with a little bit of that Kindle essence on it. I think the unscented doesn't have as much, but I used that one, the Gayworth and Hogarth, and it's a good tobacco. But I thought maybe I would pair this with Vincent Manel's Les Petites Robins, because there is something, I figure Sherlock Holmes, it being a mystery novels, there's something mysterious about Samoa. And so, having recently smoked Les Petites Robins, and it is a shag cut also, I thought this might be perfect. It's one of those tobaccos you don't have to think too much about to enjoy. Let you work on solving other problems maybe while you're smoking it. But it's also complex enough to keep you engaged. And so either Gayworth and Hogarth, Kindle Dark Shag, or Manel Le Petit Robin would be my choice for that one. Next up, we have Holden Caulfield in Catcher in the Rye. I read this many years ago. It's a great American novel by J.D. Salinger. It's not really a coming-of-age story. It's kind of how the world changes around this central character, and you see how he handles this stuff. Throughout the novel, he smokes cigarettes a number of times. So I chose a classic American blend, Half and Half. Half and Half was created first in 1909, and then in its creation, the American Tobacco Company used Lucky Strike tobacco, and then another pipe tobacco called Buckingham. And in fact, Half and Half had the Lucky Strike symbol on it up until 1938. That is what I would pair with it. It seemed like a perfect combination, a really pleasant sort of all-day American smoke for a great American novel. Next up, Mark Twain, the works of Mark Twain. I've read several novels of Mark Twain, namely Huckleberry Finn, Tom Sawyer, and he was known for being a cigar smoker. I think it was exaggerated that he smoked 40 cigars a day, but they said between each cigar he smoked a pipe. There aren't that many hours in the day to smoke that much, but when he smoked a pipe, he smoked a Missouri Meerschaum. In fact, there's one anecdote where Rudyard Kipling, the writer of the Jungle Book, kind of chastised him for putting some very fine Oriental tobacco into a corn cob. And his reply was, "Sir, this is not a corn cob, it's a Missouri Meerschaum." And rumor is he ordered Missouri Meerschaum corn cobs by the gross, which would be 144 at a time. And so I chose the tobacco and this would go with probably any of his novels. I chose Missouri Meerschaum Country Gentleman, which is a vapor where they add a little bit of dark-fired Kentucky into it. So it's not an aromatic, which I don't believe he would have smoked an aromatic anyway. So that seemed a Missouri Meerschaum tobacco in a corn cob, and something that's mildly complex with Kentucky in it. It seemed like the perfect pairing for Mark Twain, if you're going to read Mark Twain. Next up, Stephen King novels. Again, I chose an author over a specific book because Stephen King is so prolific and he's written so many. He typically does the horror and thriller type genre, but he also does the Dark Tower series, which is a great fantasy series with some horror elements in it. But he also did Shawshank Redemption. He did Stand By Me, and he did It. He did The Stand. All of these books, he writes so much it's hard to choose just one. But to me, Stephen King, pairing him with a tobacco was also kind of a no-brainer. I chose Haunted Bookshop. It just seemed, for as many books as he's written, and most of them kind of being in the horror genre, it just seemed perfect. He's a great American novelist. Haunted Bookshop is a great American tobacco. That's complex, it's spicy, it gives you, it's a fantastic, I don't have to tell you anything about that. You know all about Haunted Bookshop. Next, number 9. Ernest Hemingway. Ernest Hemingway was a tortured soul, but he wrote some of the greatest novels ever written. Probably among his best known is Old Man and the Sea, a really brief, really short novella about an old man kind of wrestling out at sea with a swordfish and trying to reel it in. And I love the novel, and to me, I chose a navy blend, but not like the Gay With Navy cut. I chose Mac Baron's Plum Cake. Plum Cake is a navy blend because it is topped with rum, but it also has burley, and it has Virginias in it, and it's got Cavendish, and it's got Latakia, and it's all topped with rum, and it comes together so beautifully. It smells like something in the tropics. And he lived in Cuba, and I just thought it was kind of a perfect combination. The richness of the tobacco with the richness of his story, the richness of the stories that he told on paper. Finally, number 10, and this might catch some of you off guard, I'm choosing the Holy Bible. A book that I probably have read more than any other book. And I may have lost some of you, and I won't apologize for that. But the Holy Bible has great importance in my life. It guides me in my thoughts day to day. It teaches me how to love my neighbor better and love one another. And it guides me on my way, and it gives me an anchor. So, what have I paired that with? Star of the East Flake. I remember the first time I heard of the tobacco, Star of the East, my brain immediately went to the nativity story and the birth of Jesus Christ. So as I believe that the Holy Bible sort of tells from beginning to end, kind of points to Jesus Christ from the beginning and kind of points back to Jesus Christ near the end, that was the perfect pairing for me. It's a rich tobacco, Oriental forward, half Latakia, uses stoved Virginias in it. It's a great, rich smoke for the greatest story ever told. So that's been 10 books with 10 tobaccos that I would pair them. Again, that's entirely my opinion. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you so much for spending this time with me. I hope you weren't disappointed in the list. And if you have anything that you'd like to say, again, put it in the comments, or you can email me at westtexpiper@gmail.com. And I'd love to chat with you a little bit about any of this. So anyway, thanks so much for spending some time with me. If you haven't read some of these books, I recommend them all. And if you haven't smoked all of these tobaccos, again, I recommend all of them. They're all great. So thanks so much for your time. I hope that you all stay well. Remember to click like and subscribe, and click that bell to be notified when I release new content. And I will talk to you all very soon. Y'all have a blessed day.